What if I told you that right now, buried beneath the green hell of the Amazon rainforest, beneath the tangle of lianas, the poison arrow frogs, the anacondas, there are the remains of a civilization bigger than ancient Egypt? Not a few lost tribes. Not scattered huts. Cities. Highways. Pyramids. Over 10,000 earthen platforms, linked by perfectly straight roads that stretch for miles, roads that haven't felt a human footstep for over 1,000 years. And we are only seeing them now. Because for centuries, the jungle kept it secret. Until a technology designed to map the moon looked down and erased the canopy. For most of the 20th century, archaeologists had a quiet consensus: the Amazon was a demographic void. A place too poor in nutrients, too hostile, to ever support anything more than small, wandering bands of hunter-gatherers. Sure, explorers found occasional pottery, but they dismissed it as the work of marginal tribes. The jungle, they said, erased history. Then came LIDAR. Light detection and ranging. Here's how it works, in the simplest terms. An aircraft fires 250,000 laser pulses per second at the ground. The lasers pierce leaves, bounce off branches, but most keep going. When they hit solid Earth, they return. A computer then measures the time of flight for every single pulse. The result? A 3D map of the bare Earth, with the forest digitally stripped away. It's like taking an X-ray of the planet. And when scientists first ran LIDAR over a forgotten corner of Ecuador, they nearly fell out of their chairs. This is the Upano Valley, at the edge of the Andes. For decades, local Quechua farmers would tell anthropologists there are old mounds in the forest. Our grandfathers say a great people lived there. Nobody listened. In 2022, a research team led by Stephen Rostin flew a LIDAR survey over just 300 square kilometers. What they found defied every textbook. Over 6,000 earthen platforms. These were the foundations of houses, ceremonial buildings, storehouses. And linking them, a network of wide, dead-straight roads, some of them 25 meters across, larger than most Roman roads. The entire system was planned. Deliberately. One single metropolis made of 15 distinct settlements, all connected like a Bronze Age subway map. The density is staggering. In some sectors, you have a platform every 100 meters. This was not a village. This was an urban civilization. And here's the kicker: the Upano Valley Society was building these cities in 500 BCE. That's before the Roman Empire. That's contemporary with the height of the Olmecs in Mexico. But they did it entirely in the jungle, using only earth, wood, and human labor. No wheel. No draft animals. And they sustained themselves for over 1,000 years, until around 500 CE, when something made them leave. If the Upano Valley was the Amazon's Manhattan, then what we're about to show you is the Amazon's Venice. East of the Andes, in Bolivia, lies the Llanos de Moxos. For 6 months of the year, this land becomes a shallow sea. Conventional wisdom said, nobody could live here year-round. But the Kasserab people, who thrived from 500 to 1400 CE, looked at that flooded hellscape and said, "We will build our own world." They built massive elevated platforms, some up to 22 meters high, the height of a 7-story building. On top of those platforms, ceremonial centers, plazas, and U-shaped pyramids that rival anything in the Andes. And to move between these artificial islands during the wet season, they constructed a highway network of raised causeways, some over 10 miles long, wide enough for a parade of hundreds. But here's the brilliant engineering detail: the Kasserab didn't just drain the land. They managed the flood. Those zigzag canals slowed down water flow, preventing erosion. They also created artificial ponds for fish farming. The population of the Kasserab civilization has been estimated at over 100,000 people in a region that was once called uninhabitable. And then, around 1400 CE, a century before Columbus, their cities fell silent. Drought? Warfare? Disease? We don't know. The jungle swallowed them. But their ghost highways remain, perfectly level, under 10 feet of mud and grass. Not every lost city in the Amazon is pre-Columbian. In the state of Rondônia, Brazil, deep in the forest, a team led by Eduardo Neves ran lidar over a patch of jungle that local rubber tappers had always called the Old Settlement. What they found was a complete 18th century Portuguese town, abandoned after a failed gold rush. The forest had grown back so completely that from the air, you saw nothing but green. But under that green, a colonial ghost town with streets laid out to a European blueprint. This discovery is a powerful reminder: lidar doesn't just find ancient things. It finds history, layered, forgotten, waiting. Together, these discoveries have shattered a century of archaeology. We now know that the Amazon was not a pristine wilderness. It was a garden metropolis, a landscape engineered, managed, and loved by millions of people. Let's put the numbers in perspective. Recent models suggest that before European contact, the Amazon may have been home to 8 to 10 million people. That's roughly the population of New York City and Los Angeles combined, spread across a forest the size of the continental United States. And those people did not simply survive in the jungle. They transformed it, but in a way that we're only beginning to understand. They created their own super soil, a mixture of charcoal, bone meal, and broken pottery that remains fertile today, centuries after they left. It is so rich that modern farmers in Brazil illegally mine it from protected areas and sell it as potting soil. The Amazon, it turns out, is not a counterfeit paradise. It is a human paradise, one that was carefully nurtured for over 3,000 years. There's a catch, and it's an uncomfortable one. For decades, archaeologists and explorers used the word lost to describe these cities. Lost cities of the Amazon. Lost civilizations. It sounds exciting. It sells documentaries. But it is also wrong. Because here's the truth the lidar data can't show. These cities were never lost. The Quichua people of Ecuador knew about the Upano mounds. They called them Lacta's ancient towns. The Mojeno people of Bolivia have oral traditions describing the Kasserab causeways as roads of the ancestors. When asked, they will tell you, oh, of course there were cities there. Our grandfathers' grandfathers lived in them. But for centuries, Western academics dismissed those stories as myth. They believed the Amazon couldn't support complex societies, so when local people said otherwise, they simply weren't believed. So LIDAR didn't discover these cities. What LIDAR did was prove to a skeptical world that indigenous people had been telling the truth all along. This is a quiet revolution in archaeology. Scientists are now collaborating with indigenous communities, using LIDAR as a tool for cultural reclamation, not just for publishing papers. Here's the mind-bending part. We have surveyed less than 0.5% of the Amazon with LIDAR. Less than half of 1%. A 2023 study estimated that over 10,000 pre-Columbian earthworks are still hidden beneath the canopy, entire towns, ceremonial centers, geometrically precise geoglyphs, and agricultural terraces. Just last year, a team in Brazil's Acre State found over 600 new geoglyphs, massive geometric shapes cut into the earth, visible only from above. They date to 2000 BCE. That's older than the pyramids of Giza. Every time a LIDAR plane flies over a new patch of Amazon, it finds something. Sometimes it's a village. Sometimes it's a highway. And sometimes it's a city with a population rivaling medieval London. We are living through the greatest archaeological revolution since the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. Except instead of a single tomb, we have an entire continent waiting to be seen for the first time. But there is a dark side to this story. The Amazon is burning. Every year, ranchers and loggers clear tens of thousands of square kilometers of rainforest. And as the trees fall, the ancient earthworks fall with them. Archaeologists are in a desperate race. They are using LIDAR to map as much as possible before it is destroyed. In some cases, they've flown LIDAR over an area, identified a dozen new sites, and then watched, a year later, as those same coordinates became a cattle pasture. We are losing the history of the Amazon faster than we can read it. And every lost platform mound, every bulldozed causeway, is a chapter of the human story erased forever. So where does that leave us? We now know that the Amazon was once home to millions, to engineers and artists, to farmers who turned sterile dirt into black gold. But we don't know their names. We don't know what they called themselves. We don't know the songs they sang, or the gods they prayed to when the floodwaters rose. What LIDAR has given us is not the cities themselves. It has given us the shadow of the cities, a ghost map of a world that was. And it has given us one uncomfortable truth. The greatest civilization of the Amazon did not destroy its home. It lived with it for centuries, maybe millennia. And then, for reasons we still don't understand, perhaps climate, perhaps European disease arriving silently ahead of the conquistadors, it vanished. The jungle grew back. But the cities remained, waiting. Waiting for us to finally look. If you want to help protect these untold archaeological treasures, support organizations that work with indigenous peoples to stop deforestation. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the lost cities of the Amazon, let me know in the comments which discovery blew your mind the most. When this video reaches 10,000 likes, we'll produce a full hour-long specials on even crazier stories about antiquities obscured from us. Until then, keep looking down, because you never know what's hiding under your feet. And as usual, stay curious. Question everything. Let us rediscover about our past and more about this earth. We are all in it together.